Right now, you're probably watching this on a device that contains a metal most people have never heard of. It's called coltan, and there's a good chance it came from Congo. But the exploitation of Congo's minerals didn't start with your iPhone or laptop. It started over 130 years ago with a Belgian king who turned an entire country into his property. The system he created, the patterns of extraction and violence, they didn't disappear when colonialism officially ended. They evolved, they adapted. And today, they're inside your pocket. This is the story of how Congo's curse began and why it never really ended. This is the real price of your phone, the price paid in blood, suffering, and stolen wealth across generations. In 1885, at the Berlin Conference, European powers carved up Africa like a cake. But one man walked away with something truly unprecedented, something the world had never seen before in modern times. King Leopold II of Belgium didn't just get a colony for his country, he got a personal possession. The Congo Free State became his private property to do with as he pleased, answerable to no one. An area 76 times larger than Belgium itself. That's roughly the size of Western Europe. Not a Belgian colony, not governed by Belgian law, his personal property, his private business venture. Leopold sold the world a beautiful lie. He claimed he was bringing civilization, Christianity, and progress to Africa. He said he was ending the Arab slave trade and helping the Congolese people. The reality was brutally simple. It was about profit, specifically rubber. The bicycle boom and later automobile industry created massive global demand, and Leopold saw his opportunity to become wealthy. Congo's forests were full of wild rubber vines. Leopold needed massive amounts of labor to extract it from deep in the jungle, and he absolutely wasn't going to pay fair wages for that labor. His private army, called the Force Publique, implemented a brutal quota system across the territory. Villages had to deliver set amounts of rubber every month. Failure meant collective punishment. If villages failed to meet quotas, the punishment was systematic and horrifying. Hands were cut off to prove bullets weren't wasted. Villages were burned. Women and children were taken hostage. Between 1885 and 1908, Congo's population dropped by approximately 10 million people. That's half the population, gone in just 23 years. An entire generation erased from existence by greed. Some died from direct violence, shot or mutilated by Leopold's forces. Others died from starvation, disease, and exhaustion as entire communities were destroyed and agricultural systems collapsed. And where did all the wealth go? It flowed directly to Brussels. Leopold used his Congo profits to build monuments, grand palaces, museums, and to fund his lavish lifestyle as Europe's richest monarch. Meanwhile, Congo got absolutely nothing in return. No schools, no hospitals, no roads, no infrastructure except what was needed to extract resources and export them as quickly and cheaply as possible. By 1908, international pressure from journalists and activists forced Leopold to hand Congo over to the Belgian government. The atrocities had become too public, too embarrassing for Europe to ignore. But the fundamental system he created didn't change one bit. Extraction without investment, wealth without compensation, profit without responsibility. It just got a new manager, Belgium itself. Belgian colonial rule continued the exact same pattern for another 52 years. Congo remained what it had always been under Leopold, a resource extraction zone, nothing more than a mine with borders. The resources changed, but the system didn't. Copper from the rich Katanga province, diamonds from the Kasai region, gold, and uranium. Uranium from Congo went into the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Congolese people provided all the labor. They worked in dangerous mines deep underground, in brutal conditions, for minimal wages that kept them perpetually poor. their bodies for Belgium's profit. The profits went exclusively to Belgian mining companies and their European shareholders. The wealth kept flowing in one direction only, outward, away from Congo, away from the people who produced it. The infrastructure built by Belgium had one singular purpose: getting minerals out of the interior and to the coast, not developing the country, not connecting communities, just extraction and export. When Congo finally gained independence on June 30th, 1960, it inherited this deliberately underdeveloped state. Belgium had spent 75 years extracting wealth while intentionally preventing any meaningful development. After 60 years of Belgian civilizing mission, the country had fewer than 30 university graduates in a population of 14 million people. Belgium had intentionally prevented. The first democratically elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, gave a speech on Independence Day. He spoke about taking control of Congo's wealth. He wanted the profits to finally benefit Congolese people. He lasted exactly 7 months before being overthrown and assassinated. His dream of economic independence died with him. His body was dissolved in acid to hide the evidence of murder and international conspiracy. The coup against Lumumba was backed by Belgium and the United States, WWII. Why? Because Lumumba threatened their continued access to Congo's minerals. Economic control mattered more than democracy or human rights. The military dictator who replaced him, Mobutu Sese Seko, ruled for 32 brutal years. He became one of the world's most notorious kleptocrats, stealing billions while his people starved in one of Earth's richest lands. But Western powers loved Mobutu. Why? Because he allowed their companies continued access to minerals in exchange for diplomatic support and weapons. He was their dictator, brutal but reliable, corrupt but cooperative. By the time Mobutu was finally overthrown in 1997, he had accumulated between $4 and $5 billion in foreign banks. Meanwhile, Congo remained one of the poorest countries on Earth. The pattern held. Look at the pattern clearly now. Every single time Congo tried to control its own resources for its own benefit, outside forces intervened violently, because the system was too profitable to allow it to change. In the 1990s, something changed everything. The digital revolution created explosive demand for a new mineral that most people had never heard of: coltan, which is short for the tongue-twisting columbite tantalite. When you refine coltan, it produces tantalum, a remarkable metal that holds electrical charge exceptionally well. It's heat-resistant, corrosion-resistant, and absolutely essential for modern electronics manufacturing. Every single smartphone, laptop, gaming console, and digital camera needs tantalum capacitors to function. Without them, none of your devices would work. Your entire digital life depends on this one mineral. And here's where Congo comes back into the story. The Democratic Republic of Congo has somewhere between 60 and 80% of the entire world's coltan reserves, the largest deposits humanity has ever discovered. Remember that pattern of extraction and violence from Leopold's time, that system that kept repeating through independence. In the 1990s, it came roaring back with a vengeance, deadlier than ever before. Between 1996 and 2003, Eastern Congo descended into what historians now call Africa's World War, the deadliest conflict since World War II. Multiple African nations invaded. Proxy armies clashed over mineral-rich territories. More than 5 million people died. Most didn't die in battle. They died from starvation, disease, and displacement as their communities were destroyed. And at the center of all the fighting were the mineral-rich areas. Armed groups, many backed by neighboring countries Rwanda and Uganda, seized control of mines across the east. They needed money for weapons. Coltan prices had skyrocketed. Mining became the war's economic engine. These groups used forced labor to extract coltan. Men, women, and children worked in dangerous hand-dug mines. The coltan was sold to international buyers who asked no questions about its origins or the blood on it. The money from coltan sales funded more weapons, which bought more territorial control, which meant more mines, which meant more coltan, which meant more weapons. The cycle fed itself. Violence became profitable business. The international supply chain was deliberately designed to obscure origins. Coltan was smuggled across borders at night. It was mixed with minerals from legitimate sources. Paperwork was falsified to hide Congolese origins. The mixed coltan was shipped to refineries in Asia, primarily China and Malaysia. There it was processed into pure tantalum powder. By this point, tracing it back to Congo was essentially impossible for manufacturers. This refined tantalum was sold to electronics manufacturers worldwide. Your phone company probably had no idea where it came from. Or perhaps more accurately, they had plausible deniability. They chose not to look too closely. A United Nations expert panel report in 2001 documented in detail how the systematic exploitation of Congo's resources was directly funding the conflict. They named companies. They named countries. The evidence was overwhelming. Some reforms followed years later. The Dodd-Frank Act in 2010 required US companies to disclose conflict mineral sources. It was a start. But enforcement has been weak, inconsistent, and easily circumvented by creative accounting. And the smuggling networks simply adapted to the new regulations. New routes opened through different countries. New shell companies obscured ownership. The system evolved to survive. It always does when there's profit at stake. Today, right now as you watch this, Eastern Congo still has dozens of armed groups controlling mines. Workers still labor in dangerous conditions without safety equipment for a few dollars a day. The exploitation continues. And the wealth? It still flows outward. Away from Congo, away from the people whose land produces these vital minerals. The pattern that Leopold established 130 years ago is still running. Still profitable. Still deadly. So here's the connection between your smartphone and King Leopold's rubber terror from over a century ago. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a direct line. It's something more insidious. A pattern. A system. It's a system of extraction that was perfected in the 1880s and never truly dismantled. It just evolved, changed its methods, updated its technology, but kept its fundamental logic intact. Extract wealth, prevent development. Here's how the cycle works, and you'll recognize it from every chapter of Congo's history. Step 1. Congo has valuable resources that the world desperately wants. That part never changes. The resources do. The demand doesn't. Step 2. Outside forces move in to control those resources. Sometimes it's colonial powers, sometimes corporations, sometimes armed groups, sometimes all three working together. But it's always outsiders. Never Congolese benefiting from Congolese wealth. Step 3. Those resources are extracted using the cheapest possible labor. Forced labor, prison labor, child labor, poverty wages. The wealth is exported. It leaves the country immediately. Congo gets almost nothing in return for its treasure. Step 4. Congo remains desperately poor and unstable. That instability is then used to justify the next intervention, the next exploitation. They can't govern themselves, the exploiters say. And the cycle repeats, again and again. Think about this carefully. Congo should be one of the richest countries on earth. It has everything: minerals, forests, rivers, farmland, human potential. Everything a nation needs to thrive. yet it ranks among the world's poorest.